If you think betrayal always comes with warning signs, you're wrong. Sometimes it shows up quietly, in something as simple as an email. It was early morning, the kind of quiet where the city hasn't fully woken up yet. No traffic noise, no calls, just stillness. I was sitting at my kitchen island, scrolling through overnight updates, when I saw it. Subject line: unusual activity detected. At first, I almost ignored it. I get dozens of alerts like that every week. Transactions, reports, automated flags. It's part of running multiple businesses. But something about this one made me stop. I opened it, and within seconds, everything sharpened. 2 withdrawals, large ones, just over $7,000 each. Same account, same week, both marked as in-person transactions. That didn't make sense. I don't do in-person banking, not anymore. Everything I touch is digital, structured, optimized. So either this was fraud or something worse. I checked the account, an old one, almost forgotten, a joint savings account my parents had opened for me years ago. I had meant to close it, just never got around to it, and that's when I saw the location. A branch, 2 blocks from my parents' house. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, because now, the possibilities were narrowing. Fast. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I've learned not to. Emotion clouds judgment, and I don't operate like that. So I called the bank, verified everything, got transferred twice, finally reached someone who could give me real answers. "Can you confirm who made these withdrawals?" I asked. There was a pause. Typing. Then, "Our system shows the transactions were completed by an authorized individual on the account." My voice stayed calm. "Name." Another pause. Then, "Your mother." Silence. Not on the call, inside me. "She stated you had approved the withdrawals for a family emergency," the representative added. Family emergency. That phrase echoed for a second. Then something shifted. Not shock, not anger, recognition. Because this wasn't confusion. This wasn't misunderstanding, this was assumption. They didn't ask, they didn't check, they didn't hesitate, they just took it. I ended the call, slowly set my phone down, and leaned back in my chair. If this had happened years ago, I might have reacted differently, confronted them immediately, demanded answers, raised my voice, but I don't do that anymore. But watching them celebrate with what they stole, that thread snapped, clean. No anger, no hesitation, just clarity. Later that night, my phone lit up. A message from my mom. "Hope you're not upset about the savings account." I stared at it. Didn't move, didn't react. Then another message came. "It was just sitting there. Your sister needed help." And then, the final line. "You'll make more money. Family comes first." I read it twice, slowly, because I wanted to understand something. Not what she said, but how she said it. There was no guilt, no hesitation, no awareness, just certainty. In her mind, this wasn't wrong. It was justified, expected, normal. That's when everything became simple. This wasn't about explaining myself anymore. This wasn't about fixing anything. This wasn't even about getting the money back. This was about something bigger. Control. Because they thought they had it. Over me. Over my story. Over my life. And they were wrong. So I didn't reply. I didn't call. I didn't react. Because reactions are immediate, and I was thinking long-term, strategically. Because if they wanted to believe I was nothing, I'd let them, for now. Because when the truth finally hit them, I didn't want it to be a conversation. I wanted it to be an impact. Something they couldn't ignore. Something they couldn't explain away. Something they couldn't recover from. And that moment? It was already in motion. I just had to wait. I didn't respond to her message. Not that night, not the next day, not at all. Because there was nothing to say. You can't explain respect to people who don't believe they've done anything wrong. And you definitely don't argue with people who think taking from you is their right. No, you let them keep believing that. You let them get comfortable. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because my mind was already moving. Clear, focused, locked in. First step, security. By 9 a.m., and I was on a call with my legal team. Every account reviewed, every access point checked, every shared authority revoked. That old savings account? Closed immediately. No loose ends, no open doors, no chances. Because the truth is, What they did wasn't just about money, it was about access, and access and his power. If they had it once, they'd assume they always could. So I made sure they never would again. The second step was quieter, more deliberate. Information. I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. Not a friend. Not exactly. More like a resource. His name was Marcus. Didn't advertise what he did. Didn't need to. People in certain circles just knew. If you needed to know something, he could find it. We met that afternoon. Private office, minimal conversation. Straight to the point. I need a full financial profile, I told him. On who? My family. He didn't react. Didn't ask why, just nodded once. Give me a few days. That was enough. Because I wasn't looking for dirt. I was looking for truth. And truth creates leverage. The third step? Distance. I disappeared. Completely. No calls, no replies, no family visits. I stopped showing up. Stopped existing in their world. And just like I expected, they didn't question it. Because in their minds, they had already written my ending, struggling, failing, learning a lesson. So my silence? It fit perfectly into their story, and that's exactly what I wanted. Because the more they believed it, the deeper they'd fall when reality hit. Meanwhile, I shifted everything back to business. But this time, with intention. No distractions, no hesitation, no delays. Projects I had been sitting on for months, approved in days. Expansion plans, accelerated. Europe, greenlit. Southeast Asia, locked in. New teams, new contracts, new capital flowing in faster than ever. I wasn't just working, I was building momentum. Because timing matters. And when the moment came, I needed everything aligned. Not just financially, but strategically. Weeks passed. From the outside, nothing changed. My family kept living their version of reality, telling people I had collapsed, that I was finally facing consequences, and I let them. Because every word they spoke was another layer of confidence, and confidence without truth, it's fragile. All it takes is one moment to break it. Marcus called 5 days later. I've got what you asked for. We met that evening. Same place, same quiet tone. He slid a folder across the table. Your family's situation isn't what it looks like, he said. I opened it, started reading, and within minutes, everything made sense. Debt. Not small amounts, not manageable amounts. Structured debt. Layered, hidden under assets and appearances. My parents, holding things together, but barely. Mortgage refinanced more than once. Credit lines stretched. Savings thinner than they let on. And Lily? Her perfect life was built on leverage, car loans, luxury spending, image maintenance, expensive lifestyle, backed by pressure. Not stability. I leaned back slowly, closed the folder, and for the first time, I understood everything. This wasn't just about me. This was about them. Their image, their identity, their need to feel successful. Because if I succeeded, without their path, without their approval, it would expose something they couldn't accept, that they weren't as right as they believed. That their version of success wasn't the only one. So they did the only thing they could. They rewrote me, turned me into failure, because it protected them, made their world make sense again. I almost smiled. Because now, I didn't just have clarity, I had leverage. And leverage changes everything. The next phase was simple, visibility, but controlled. I didn't go public, didn't post anything, didn't announce success. That would have been too easy, too direct, too expected. Instead, I positioned myself in the right rooms, with the right people, at the right time. Investor dinners, private events, high-level meetings, spaces where influence matters more than attention, and in those spaces, my name started moving, quietly, naturally, through conversations, introductions, recommendations, not forced, not advertised, earned, and that's what made it powerful. Because when people talk about you without you being there, that's when it's real. Weeks turned into months, momentum built, deals closed one after another, and then the breakthrough. One of my smaller investments, a software startup, got acquired. 8 figures, clean deal, fast execution. My share, enough to change everything. Not for me. I was already there, but for them. Because now, the scale was undeniable, unquestionable, unavoidable. And that's when I made the decision. Not emotional, not impulsive, precise. There was an event coming up, a charity gala, high profile, selective guest list, business leaders, investors, influential circles. And more importantly, my family would be there. Through Lily. Of course. Perfect image, perfect setting, perfect audience. I didn't hesitate. I secured my place. Not loudly, not publicly, just enough to be there. Because this wasn't just another event. It was a stage. And everything I had done, every move, every decision, had been leading to this moment. Not for revenge, for truth. Because I wasn't going to argue with them. I wasn't going to explain anything. I wasn't going to prove myself in words. No, I was going to let the world do it for me. And when it happened, when they heard my name, from the people they respected, from the rooms they admired, it would hit differently, harder, deeper, because it wouldn't just challenge their belief, it would destroy it, completely. And as the date got closer, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger, not frustration, control. Because for the first time, the story wasn't theirs anymore, it was mine. And very soon, they were going to realize they were never part of it. The invitation came exactly when I expected it. Not directly, not with my name highlighted or announced. Just another formal email, clean and minimal. You are invited to attend, location, date, time, high-profile charity gala, selective guest list, black tie. Most people would see something like that as an opportunity, a place to network, to be seen, to impress. For me, it was something else entirely. A stage. Because for the first time in a long time, my world and theirs were about to collide. I didn't RSVP immediately, I let it sit for a day. Not out of hesitation, but because I wanted to be intentional. Every move mattered now, timing, positioning, execution. When I finally confirmed my attendance, I kept it simple. No additional requests, no special arrangements, just one name on a list. Invisible. For now. The days leading up to the event moved differently. Faster. Sharper. I wasn't just working anymore. I was aligning everything. Meetings were scheduled with precision, deals pushed forward, loose ends tied off. Because once that night came, I didn't want distractions, I didn't want unfinished business, I wanted clarity and control. At the same time, my presence in certain circles increased. Not loudly, not publicly, but enough. Enough for conversations to start, enough for recognition to build, enough for my name to carry weight. Before I even walked into that room, I had already seen it happening at a private dinner in Manhattan, at a closed investor meeting, at a quiet conversation over coffee that turned into something bigger. People were talking, not because I asked them to, but because of what I had built. And that's the difference. When you tell people who you are, they question it. When others say it for you, it becomes real. That's what I was counting on because my family didn't believe me, but they believed status, influence, reputation. And all of those things were about to speak, louder than I ever could. The day of the gala arrived without drama, no build-up, no nerves, just calm. I woke up early. Same routine, gym, shower, black coffee. From the outside, it looked like any other day. But underneath, everything was different. Because I knew what was coming. Not the exact conversations, not the exact reactions, but the shift. The moment where everything they believed stopped making sense. And that's the kind of moment you don't rush. You walk into it, on your terms. I chose a simple suit, black, tailored, nothing flashy, because I didn't need to stand out, I just needed to be there. I arrived late, not by accident, by design. When you arrive early, you blend in. When you arrive late, you interrupt. And interruption creates attention. The venue was exactly what you'd expect. Elegant, controlled, expensive without trying too hard. Soft lighting, low conversations, glasses clinking in the background. The kind of place where people don't raise their voices because they don't need to. Power doesn't shout, it's recognized. I stepped inside, slow, calm, unnoticed. At first, I scanned the room once, then again, and there they were, my parents, Lily. Exactly as I expected. Perfectly composed, perfectly confident, perfectly certain of their place in the world. Lily stood near a small group, holding a glass of wine, laughing lightly. My dad was speaking to someone with that same serious expression he always used when he wanted to seem important. My mom stood beside him, nodding, smiling, reinforcing everything he said. From the outside, They looked successful, but I knew better, and soon, so would everyone else. I didn't walk over, not yet. That would have been too direct, too obvious, too easy. Instead, I moved through the room, casually, like I belonged there, because I did. A few people glanced my way, nothing more. Then the first moment happened. A voice behind me. "Adrian?" I turned, recognized him immediately. An investor I had met months earlier. We shook hands, brief conversation. But that's all it takes. One interaction, in the right room. Because people watch, they notice, they connect dots, and within minutes, it started. Another introduction, another handshake, another conversation, each one slightly louder than the last. Not in volume, but in presence. I didn't push it, didn't lead it. I let it happen, naturally. And across the room, I saw it. My father paused mid-conversation, just for a second, then again. His attention shifted, not fully, not obviously, but enough. Curiosity. My mom followed his gaze, then Lily, and that's when it changed. Because recognition isn't instant. It builds, piece by piece. At first they weren't sure. Then, they were. I saw it in Lily's face. That slight freeze. That moment where confidence slips. Just enough to reveal uncertainty. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was watching, trying to understand, trying to connect something that didn't make sense. Because in her world, I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to belong, and yet, there I was, not just present, recognized. Then came the shift. A louder voice, a clearer statement. "Adrian Cole, I've been meaning to meet you." That one carried. Not across the whole room, but far enough. Far enough for them to hear. Far enough for everything to start breaking. Another voice. "Incredible work on that acquisition." Another. "We should talk. There's potential here." Each word, a crack. Each interaction, pressure. And I didn't look at them. Not once, because I didn't need to. The room was doing it for me. The narrative they built, the story they told, the version of me they believed, was collapsing in real time. And the more they watched, the worse it got. Because now, they weren't just hearing it, they were feeling it, the disconnect. The realization that something was very wrong with what they thought they knew, and still, I said nothing. Because silence in moments like this is power. I let it build, let the confusion grow, let the truth settle in, without forcing it. Because when realization comes on its own, it hits harder, deeper. And by the time I finally turned toward them, I knew one thing for certain: they weren't ready, not for what was coming next. I didn't rush. That was the key. Because moments like this, they don't need force, they need timing. Across the room, I could feel their attention locked on me now. Not casually, not curiously, fully. My father wasn't pretending to listen to the man in front of him anymore. My mother's smile had faded into something tighter, uncertain, and Lily, for the first time in her life, didn't look in control. She wasn't speaking. She wasn't laughing. She was watching, trying to understand how the version of me she had believed for years didn't match the one standing across the room. I let it sit for a few more seconds. Let the silence stretch. Let the discomfort grow. Because the truth doesn't hit all at once. It builds. And then, it lands. I turned, finally, and walked toward them. No hesitation, no emotion on my face. Just calm. Each step steady, measured. Not aggressive, not confrontational, certain. The closer I got, the clearer everything became. My father straightened slightly, like he was preparing to regain control of a situation he didn't understand. My mother forced a small smile, the kind people use when they're unsure what's happening, but don't want to show it. And Lily, she didn't move at all. Her eyes stayed locked on me, sharp, searching, trying to find something familiar, something that would explain this. But there wasn't anything, because this version of me wasn't the one she knew. I stopped a few feet away, close enough, no one spoke. For a moment, the noise of the room faded. Not completely, but enough. Enough that this moment felt isolated, like everything else had stepped back. My father was the first to break. "Adrian," he said slowly. Not confident, not dismissive. Careful, like he was testing the name, making sure it still fit. I nodded once. "Good to see you." Simple, neutral. No tension in my voice, no edge, and somehow, That made it worse, because they expected something else. Defensiveness, bitterness, something they could respond to. But calm? Calm doesn't give you anything to fight. My mother stepped in next. "We didn't know you'd be here," she said. Her tone was light, too light, like she was trying to bring things back to normal. I looked at her for a moment. "You didn't ask?" That was it. No accusation, no explanation, just a statement, and it landed. Because underneath those 4 words was everything they had ignored, everything they assumed, everything they got wrong. Lily finally spoke. Her voice was controlled, but I could hear it. That slight shift, that tension. "What exactly is going on?" she asked. Direct, sharp, like she was trying to take control back. I turned to her, met her eyes. And for the first time, she didn't look above me. She looked level, like she wasn't sure where she stood anymore. "What do you mean?" I said calmly. She exhaled slightly. "All of this," she gestured subtly around the room. "People talking to you like they know you." There it was. Not anger, not sarcasm, confusion, because her world was structured, ordered, predictable, and I wasn't fitting into it anymore. I let a small pause sit between us, not to be dramatic, but because silence makes people listen. "I've been busy," I said. That was it. No details, no breakdown, just the truth. Simplified. My father frowned slightly. "Busy with what?" he asked. The same question, different tone. Before, it was dismissive. Now, it was careful. Because now, he wasn't sure of the answer, and that uncertainty was new to him. I looked at him, held his gaze. Work. One word. But this time, it didn't sound small. It didn't sound like something to dismiss, because the room around us was already answering the question for me. A man approached, confident, recognizable. He smiled when he saw me. "Adrian, there you are," he said, extending his hand. "I was hoping to introduce you to someone." I shook his hand. "Of course." Then he glanced at my family. Polite, professional. "Friends of yours?" he asked. There was a pause, a small one, but in that pause, everything existed. The past, the assumptions, the lies, and the truth. I didn't hesitate. "Family." Simple, clear, but I didn't elaborate, because I didn't need to. He nodded, then turned slightly. "You know Adrian's behind the Cole Group expansion, right?" he said casually. Casually, like it was common knowledge, like it didn't need explanation. And that was the moment. I saw it happen. My father's expression shifted first. Confusion, turning into realization. My mother's eyes widened slightly. And Lily. She froze. Not visibly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough that everything about her posture changed. Because now, there was no room left for doubt, no narrative left to hold on to, no version of me they could reshape. The truth had just been handed to them, from someone else, in a room they respected, in a way they couldn't deny. And it hit, hard. No one spoke for a second, because there was nothing to say. No quick response, no clever remark, just silence. The kind of silence that follows realization. The kind you can't escape. I turned back to them, calm, composed, not proud, not angry. Just done. "You should have asked," I said quietly. The same words. But now, they meant something different. Now, they carried weight. Because they weren't just about this moment. They were about everything. Every assumption, every dismissal, every time they chose not to see me. And for the first time, they understood. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Enough to feel it. Enough to know they got it wrong. Completely wrong. I didn't wait for a response. Didn't give them time to recover. Because this wasn't a conversation. It was a conclusion. I nodded once, then turned, and walked away. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady, leaving them there, in the space between who they thought I was and who I had always been. Behind me, the room returned to normal. Conversations resumed, laughter came back. But for them, nothing was normal anymore, because in a single moment, their entire understanding of me collapsed, and there was no way to rebuild it. Not with excuses, not with pride, not even with apology, because some realizations come too late. And as I stepped out into the night, city lights stretching endlessly ahead, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just clarity. Because in the end, it was never about proving them wrong. It was about walking away, knowing I never needed them to be right. And that was enough. They called me a failure. They laughed at my little business. And they even stole from me, thinking I'd never rise. But the funny thing about underestimating someone is you don't see them coming. And by the time you realize who they really are, it's already too late. Because I didn't just prove them wrong, I outgrew them completely. Yo.